Tonight's episode, we're going to talk about the Lumberton Murders. The Lumberton Murders refer to the unsolved deaths of three women in Lumberton, North Carolina in 2017. All three were found within a small area, sparking concerns about a possible serial killer or other sinister activity. But with some research, we think there are more.
A lot more. Stay tuned, guys. This is going to be a good one.
Welcome back, everybody, and let's get right into it.
All right, guys. In the timeline, on April 18th in 2017, Christina Bennett, who was 32 years old at the time, was found deceased inside an abandoned home on Peachtree Street during a welfare check. Now, I need to paint a little bit of a picture for you here. This particular house at that time, like we said, was abandoned. So the question is, why a welfare check?
Why did they know to look there?
And here's why. There was a very foul odor coming from the house.
Oh, wow. Well, they weren't specifically looking for her.
They went to examine the welfare, or the welfare check was for the actual house itself to see
Okay.
if anything suspicious had happened. So that's where the welfare check comes in. So when they went inside, they found Christina inside the house, stuffed into, some accounts say, a cabinet. Some
Oh, my
accounts, I
goodness.
don't know, saw like a stereo cabinet or
Oh,
something.
my gosh.
Okay, and she was in a state of undress, trying to keep with the policy. She was in a state of undress, and the thing of it is, no immediate cause of death could be determined.
Mm.
Okay, and so they also said that her body was in a heavy state of decomposition.
Oh, my goodness. So she's been there for a little bit.
A little bit, and then that very same day, Rhonda Jones, who was 36 years old at the time, she was discovered the exact same day. Just a few blocks away, because when you map this out, Peachtree Street, and I'm painting a picture, and
You paint a better picture than me.
I'm trying, but I'm not a painter. Remember
I do know that.
that. But Peachtree Street and East Fifth Street, which is where Rhonda was discovered, they're parallel to each other. And we're going to try and talk about this a little more as we go on because of the research that we did. But she was found also in a state of undress. Her body was also determined to be in an advanced state of decomp.
Mm.
So that complicated the analysis to figure out her cause of death. But here's the strange thing. Remember I said she was a state in undress?
Mm-hmm.
She was found in a garbage can.
That's like that's awful.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It is very.
She was in a state of undress and found that way. Now Rhonda was a mother of several children. She was known to be a strong, caring person despite some addiction struggles.
Both of them had addiction struggles, but they were also just both described as loving individuals.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's just a shame. I mean, this part of Lumberton's a rough part.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, there's some struggle going on there.
Yeah.
And if you get me started on it, I'm going to point to the government and law enforcement there real quickly.
I am too. So
okay,
I don't know if we need to go there or not.
I'll try and stick to this. And now we're up to Megan.
Megan, yes, okay. She was found June 3rd, 2017. And she was found near an abandoned house on East 8th Street, close to where the other two bodies were discovered. known to both Bennett and Jones, and she had spoken to the media about Jones's death shortly after it occurred. Like the others, she struggled with addiction and had no clear cause of death. But
And here's the thing about that. Okay. We know she was 28 years old at the time. And
mhm.
remember when we were researching it and I showed you the news footage?
Yes, she's the one. She was talking about it.
Yeah, she actually knew the other two. She actually knew Rhonda and Christina, and she talked about it. Now, if you remember during the research, she made the comment to some family members that somebody had made an attempt on her.
Yeah,
You remember?
I remember that.
And so she was already afraid. So some of her family in investigating this have made the comment that they feel she was scared for her life because she knew something,
And that is what happened.
and this was the retaliation. This caused this.
And nobody else has spoken about knowing anything.
Yeah, why don't you go over the key similarities real quick, and I'll just get my screen switched.
Okay, the proximity. All three ladies were found within a 4-block radius in a distressed or bad part of Lumberton. Their lifestyle. They all shared struggles with addiction and lived vulnerable lifestyles. That, the addiction, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, anything could happen.
Yeah, that's what they tried to blame it on.
And the circumstances of all three ladies' death. None had a clear cause of death, with decomposition making investigations difficult. So it's somebody who knew a little bit of something about something.
Now, it's important that and I just realized I didn't put this in the notes for you. Okay. So you might have to fire your prep guy. Okay.
I just might.
These three ladies, from some of the information I've read through, okay, so I'm going on the thought process here. This is factual. You've got three women here, all found in a state of decomposition, no clear motive to what caused their death.
No.
Okay. Guess what?
Well,
Remember, we are talking about the law enforcement and the government in this part of the world in Lumberton.
And we're for, but not, we know enough about it.
It's my understanding, and if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. These three women here, their information set for 18 months before being analyzed to see what could have been collected as far as DNA.
Yeah.
What might have caused their death.
Well, that goes back to
toxology reports, nothing.
That goes back to what we've said.
Yeah, it goes back exactly
to what we said.
And guys, if you've been listening to the podcast long enough, you know I have a term. There's some sacks of shit that don't need to be in their positions in certain parts of North Carolina. I'm going to let that go at that, okay?
All righty.
So we go on to some related cases.
There was Cynthia Jacobs. She was in 2017. Mm-hmm. The disappearance date of her was shortly after the discovery of the three victims in 2017.
And look, check this out. She was 41 at the time, okay? Guess who she was friends with?
Megan Oxidine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it said, she reportedly provided information to law enforcement about earlier cases. So was she retaliated?
Very much so. Her body has never been found, and her case, like the rest, remain unsolved. So maybe she knew something.
And see, this is where you get into that part, and and as this goes on, we'll talk about it, okay? But it's one of those things that it's just fascinating to me that that all this is happening in this small area. Okay, so now we've established that they pretty much probably all knew each other or were less than 3 degrees of separation.
All three or more knew something,
Mm-hmm.
and they were made so they
So
would never speak.
it's exactly. So was this the work of a serial killer?
Hmm.
Or did this involve drugs and other shady dealings? And you can't rule out the possibility of human trafficking.
No, you can't.
Okay.
You look where we're at.
And we'll talk about that as we go on. But during our research, we found some things pretty interesting. So that leads us to Abby Patterson, who also disappeared in 2017.
September 5th, to be exact.
September 5th. And how old was she?
She was 20 years old and went missing within the same 6-mile section of Lumberton.
Yeah.
She was last seen leaving her home on East 9th Street.
Yeah. And guys, back on my soap opera about this again, okay? Whatever happened to Abby needs to be found out.
It really does.
Her family deserves justice.
Mm-hmm.
They do, first and foremost. So with what I'm about to say, please, Patterson family, do not take it the wrong way, because your daughter, your child, your little girl, she needs justice.
She does.
Abby Patterson is not Native American. Her case got more press coverage than the other three.
Yeah, I know, and that is so sad because
So Mrs.
they are
Jacobs,
all important.
Mrs. Jacobs, Mrs. Oxidine, and Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Bennett, they didn't get that much.
No,
coverage.
and that's we're trying to shine a light.
Because Mrs. Patterson, by all intent purposes, she was not a drug addict. She doesn't fit the profile.
No.
Other than she's young and attractive.
And she did not fit in that profile other than that.
Yeah, exactly. It's just fascinating. But as we move forward a little bit, let me check our time here, guys. Guys, we are going to take a break. We will be back in
2 minutes and 2 seconds.
Thank you. And welcome back, guys. So you want to go over the clusters that we found, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, guys, the following individuals were reported missing or found deceased in Lumberton,
emphasizing the clustering around East 8th Street.
Yeah. So first up, we have Jessica Lowry, who went missing in 2017. And we've actually done a short on Jessica. So I'll put the link to that YouTube video in our description as well. And you know what? While I'm doing that, why don't I go ahead and include Sarah Graham, who went missing in Lumberton. We did she was part of one of our earlier podcasts.
Yes, okay.
And while I'm doing that, I'm going to include Ronald Locklear, who was also from Lumberton, who went missing was found murdered under some strange circumstances. And his case, if it could shed some light, I'll include that too. So,
okay.
Jessica went missing March 17th. And she was found deceased a little further out of the square that the original girls were found in.
But within a 6-mile radius of 8th Street.
And, you know, the circumstances with her, and she had small children too, the circumstances of her disappearance and death remain unclear. And so her case hasn't been solved.
And then we have Miss Alicia Walker. She was 2017, missing May 2017. She was last seen approximately, 4 miles from East 8th Street.
Mhm.
And
And her disappearance coincides with the timeline of the Lumberton murders, which are the first three young ladies.
mhm,
But they say there's no evidence to connect her to the case, and there may not be. But don't you just isn't that just weird?
that is a little bit. I mean, all of these 1 year within the same radius.
I mean, guys, if I guess the picture I'm trying to paint, and we're going to go back to what we were talking about at the very start. It, this is a high crime area. There's a lot of illegal activity going on here.
Mhm,
Um, you know, Christina, Rhonda, Megan, they were all known to struggle with substance abuse. Okay.
mhm, yeah.
So was it related to that? We do know that they knew each other.
Mhm.
We do know Megan said somebody had made an attempt on her, and her family said that.
Yes. So it weren't just her. It was she had witnesses.
But so, you know, are these girls being forced to do things they don't want to do, and when their usefulness is up, they're discarded?
I'm leaning that way.
Or is this because you owe us money for certain substances? Because, or is it a combination of all these things, and one of these sickos does happen to be a serial killer?
It could very well be.
You know,
That's they're all. I think most of these are related.
yeah, I do on some level, and that's the layers of the web that you or cake you've got to go through. Is it drug related? Is it human trafficking? Is it the work of a serial killer, or is it all intertwined and holds hands together?
And then holds hands with certain people in the town that make or break you.
And the other thing too, while we're touching on that, is I realize there's a lot going on there. I realize that. Okay. There's a lot going on in a lot of other cities that
Mm-hmm.
have crimes being solved. So either your resources, you don't have them, or you have the resources and you're squandering them, and somebody's taking kickbacks and putting things in their pocket, or you're looking at these people like, well, there ain't much to you, so we're just going to ignore you.
We're going to do like we want to.
Yeah. Well, I suspect a lot of that's going on there.
I do too. I do too.
But each one of these ladies, their families deserve justice.
They do. Every single one of them.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, you sweet angels, but you're not going to be forgotten. Not here on our podcast.
No, you're not, Annie. As I've said before, if you know something, please contact proper authorities, even if that means you have to go higher up.
Exactly. And as we finish up talking about Mrs. Walker, that leads us up to Stephanie Lewis, and this was in 2016, August. Was it August?
It was August.
Yeah, she was reported missing near 3rd Street within 2 minutes of East 8th Street because of the way they intersect. And her proximity to these other cases, it raises questions, but again,
no definitive link
has been established. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that moves us to
Miss Patricia Smith, and she was 2016. She went missing in September of 2016, and she vanished near the same area as Stephanie Lewis, also close to 3rd Street. Her case
once again
remains unsolved, and her disappearance continues to trouble investigators.
Yeah. So when you put this on a map, okay, and look this up, and you can look it up on NamUs, they actually have put a section for the coordinates for the maps.
Oh, okay.
And I looked it up. these women are are all pretty much as close to being in the almost the same spot as you can get.
And
Okay?
you realize, I mean, it just makes you wonder about a lot of things.
It really does. Then we move on to Harmony Colbert, who also went missing in
October.
2016 in October. Now, guys, she was 17 years old,
Mm-mm-mm.
and when you see her picture of her, you can't help but fall in love with her. Just a sweet, beautiful child. Um, she was reported missing on the same Third Street and within the same close proximity as the first two, Patricia and Stephanie.
And
Once again,
no conclusive evidence ties her case to the Lumberton murders, though the clustering is notable.
yeah, yeah. So then you have all these additional cases that we just talked about, okay? And to me, there's a definite pattern. I mean,
There is a pattern.
there's a lot of disappearances and death happening in this
And
little
if you
area.
can't find them, it makes you wonder about human trafficking.
It does. That's when you have to question it. I mean, we got a really tight cluster here, particularly near the East 8th Street and the
Mm-hmm.
3rd Street. And I mean, you've got something is going on that are targeting these women one way or the other, whether it's drugs, human trafficking, serial killer,
Race.
race. I mean, but it's like you know the ones that you never see again. There's no trace of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anybody that has been close to Lumberton knows that it's in just a turn or two, within just a few minutes. Most of the time, you're on a highway, a
Yeah.
major highway.
Yeah.
So is it possible? Look over there and on the corners, Harmony Colbert,
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful 17-year-old girl,
Yeah.
and then the next thing you know, she is literally gone, maybe across state lines. Guys, I'm speculating on my end,
Yeah. We're just speculating.
but is that the process? Is that happening, or is that the killing grounds for a serial killer?
Or serial killer, and it's the intersection to different places here in North Carolina. Could it be trafficking?
Could it be trafficking? Could it be a serial killer who's taking them across lines? I mean, we do know there have been several
Yeah, we do.
truckers that were serial killers. So the things that we see here, maybe law enforcement's doing everything that they can do.
Maybe they are.
Maybe they are.
Maybe. I'm hoping, I'm praying they are.
Yeah, maybe a lot more needs to happen.
They need to blow it up on the internet, everywhere. Just
blow it up.
get it out. Because, if you're not searching for this, you're not going to find it. It's not, let's make it about them.
So there's some things that need to happen. One of these cases need to be looked at and kept foremost top of mind. That needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, some strong effort, and maybe it needs to go into curbing the crime there.
Yeah, maybe they need to, make it safe for their citizens.
And the pastor and all that stuff that happened with his wife, and she was found close to.
That was all. That's still speculation, and we need to do
too.
a podcast on that one day.
We do. And it's one of those things where, even with Sarah Graham, her father and her stepmother both worked in the Lumberton Sheriff's Department. And 6 weeks after Sarah disappeared, if you remember, her stepmother was let go. Why? Why is that? What I'm getting at is, I think in curbing that crime, maybe it needs to start in the actual departments themselves.
I think it does. I think if you get all the the mice cleared out, it'll be worth some. They will actually put the effort into it.
Get the mice cleaned out, the cat can't play.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we know this was a fairly fast and quick podcast, short podcast, but we do appreciate you so very much.
And we are coming on once a week from now on.
Yes. But take a good, strong look into these cases. Maybe you see something. Maybe you know something.
Do a Google search on it. Yeah. Do a hashtag on it. Get it out there so people, the whole world knows about it.
And where can they find us at now?
www.bookwasburied.com, YouTube,
Spotify, iHeartRadio, Rumble, and
Apple. We have a TikTok.
Yeah, we're on TikTok, Apple Podcast, and of course our Facebook page. Guys, until next time.
You have a Buck was buried kind of day.
Take care, guys.